Hello once again. Today we're going to look at this vintage General Electric ni-cad battery charger that I bought for $3 at a thrift store down in the state of Maine while I was visiting my girlfriend. We're going to look at not only the charger itself, but the 4C batteries that it came with, and these two matching D batteries that I bought for an extra $1 at the thrift store as well. I am really interested to try this out and try the batteries out and see how well the batteries work, and if they work at all, several decades after they were manufactured. I don't know when the charger or these batteries was made. I cannot find any information that pinpoints even a range of years. But from what little information I can find, my guess would be mid to late 80s. GE made batteries with this label on them going back to the mid 70s. But those ones had a black metal top on them, and these have a white metal top. So that seems to be indicative of later ones. Also, both the charger and the batteries have a UPC code on them. The UPC wasn't invented until 1974, so that would be the absolute earliest that these items could have been made. So this is actually just an empty box. I have the charger right here, and it is plugged in, and it is charging. I put the 4C batteries that came with it, I put them in the charger last night, and I've had this thing plugged in since last night. And these 4C batteries did take a charge, so they've been charging for about 17-18 hours. And in this video, I will give these batteries a first test and see if they work some 35, maybe even 40 years after they were made. I don't know if these C batteries are new old stock like the D batteries are, because these batteries came in the charger itself, but the box for the charger says batteries sold separately. So even though it shows 4C batteries on the box, I would assume that it didn't come with any batteries, and these were purchased with it, so who knows if these have been used or not. But I'm going to leave this sitting for now, but we will take those batteries out and test them later in the video. But let's start off tonight looking over the box. So, GE battery charger, ejector system, easy loading, charging indicators. Recharges all GE nickel cadmium batteries up to 4 at a time. And it does all of them. It does AAAs, AA's, C's, D's, and 9-volt batteries. Very, very nice. You have to charge the cylindrical batteries at 2 at a time. 2 in this side and or 2 in that side. But 9-volt batteries, you only need to put in 1, although you can put in 2. Gave you a 1-year warranty. And of course, this was originally sold by Ames, a hardware store that used to exist down in Maine. $12.99. If we go by 1985 as an example year for when this might have been made, $12.99 equates to about $31 US in today's money. This was back when rechargeable batteries were not very cheap. It's kind of interesting because ni-cad batteries were around for even decades before this would have been made. I'll use Radio Shack as an example because, Radio Shack is so well documented. You can go to RadioShackCatalogs.com and view every Radio Shack catalog from its inception until its demise. But Radio Shack introduced their first ni-cad batteries in 1969. And you could buy 2 AA ni-cad batteries for the equivalent of $21 in today's money. For just $21 for just 2 ni-cad AA's in 1969. And fast forward a few years to 1975, you could get 2 AA ni-cad batteries from Radio Shack for the equivalent of $18.50, so the price dropped a couple of dollars. Fast forward again to 1980, the price dropped quite a bit, down to $13.50 approximately in today's money for 2 ni-cad AA's. Dropped again 5 years later to about $3 less, $10.50 for 2 AA batteries. Fast forward again to 1990, you're down to $9. 1995, you're down to $8.50. And in 2000, you could get 2 ni-cad AA batteries for the equivalent of about $8 US in today's money. But also around 2000, Radio Shack started selling these fancy new nickel metal hydride batteries. And they were $15 for two AA nickel metal hydride batteries. For comparison, today you can buy two nickel metal hydride AA batteries for about $4.50, and much cheaper if you buy in bulk. So you can see just how long ago ni-cad batteries started being sold, but it's no wonder that we really didn't start seeing them until the 80s and especially the 90s, because the price really didn't start going down a lot until the 80s, and even in the 2000s they still weren't at a price that was extremely competitive with alkaline batteries. For almost the entire history of ni-cad batteries, it was always cheaper to use ni-cads than non-rechargeable batteries, but the initial price was just so high in the early days, especially when you had to consider the price of a charger as well. But by the 2000s, and especially by this decade, the price finally came down low enough where, you know, your average Joe could afford to buy a charger and a bunch of rechargeable batteries. I bought my first rechargeable batteries in the mid-2000s, two ni-cad AA batteries from the dollar store. It was $3 for two of them, 600 milliamp hours. And I used an Eveready quick charger from the 90s that I found at a thrift store, and that was my first time using rechargeable batteries, and I loved it. Those batteries lasted me a few years. But personally, I really didn't see rechargeable batteries start to become commonly available in the stores around my area until the mid-2000s. That was when I finally started seeing them pop up in Walmart and the Radio Shack we used to have, and even the dollar store. You could get the cheap ni-cad ones. So it's kind of neat to find a charger and a bunch of batteries from presumably the 1980s, just because, you know, even though they had come way down in price compared to how much they were in the 70s, they were still quite an expensive purchase, and the vast majority of people just opted to buy carbon zinc and maybe alkaline batteries. So continuing to look at the box, on the side here, it says charges 1 or 2 pairs of GE AA, AAA, C, and D size rechargeable batteries, or 1 or 2 GE 9-volt size rechargeable batteries. Of course, this will charge any brand of ni-cad battery, or nickel metal hydride battery for that matter, for reasons I'll explain later. But of course, GE wanted you to buy their own batteries. Keeps GE rechargeable batteries charging for about 24 cents of electricity per month. Fast charges AA size batteries in only 8 hours, other sizes 14 to 16 hours. Complete instructions inside the box. And the price for the electricity it gave was based on 8 cents per kilowatt hour of energy. Looking at the back here, gives you a little diagram here. Do not use this charger to charge alkaline or other types of throwaway batteries. This seems like, you know, obvious, but the funny thing is, and I was so surprised when I found this, going back to as far as the 60s and as recently as I think the late 80s, Radio Shack, for just to name an example, because that's, you know, the biggest wealth of information is on Radio Shack. Radio Shack sold a battery charger for use with carbon zinc and alkaline batteries. For decades, they sold a battery charger for carbon zinc and alkaline batteries. Even before they were selling ni-cad batteries, they were selling chargers for non-rechargeable batteries. And, you know, they had such advertisements as being able to charge non-rechargeable batteries up to 15 times before you had to replace the battery. I would be really interested to see how they do that. I don't know if they would have done it with a very tiny amount of current going into the battery or what, but it's kind of funny. So yeah, back especially in the early days, you could buy battery chargers specifically advertised for non-rechargeable batteries, and that's probably what most of the earliest battery chargers actually were for before ni-cads became affordable. So that's really funny. Made in Hong Kong. And on the bottom, or actually on the other side, it gives a list of merits of rechargeable batteries. Lasts up to 4 years. Varies according to battery size, device, and use. Lasts up to 4 years, so you can save hundreds of dollars in disposable batteries. Stable power output, runs products at top performance. That is a really nice thing about NiCad and nickel metal hydride batteries, is they have a very flat discharge curve. They hold their voltage for the vast majority of their cycle until right at the very end the voltage starts sharply dropping. So that's a nice feature. Used as a direct replacement for throwaway batteries in most battery-powered devices. Can be left on charge continuously without harm. Buy 2 sets of rechargeables. Keep one on charge at all times. So the thing with this charger is, I find this really, really nice, it's a completely dumb charger. It has no end of charge detection, and it actually doesn't even have a timer. When you stick the batteries on it, it just charges continuously until you take the batteries out. But it charges at very, very little current. It charges at a rated current of 100 milliamps for cylindrical batteries and just 12 milliamps for 9-volt rechargeable batteries. And that, of course, is because the 9 volts are so low capacity. I think I read that a ni-cad 9-volt battery in the 80s had a capacity of like 80 to 100 milliamp hours, which is just unfathomable today. It's kind of funny. But yeah, this charges at very, very little current, and so the current that it charges with is not actually high enough to cause overcharge once the batteries are fully charged. The batteries, especially NiCad batteries, will just safely dissipate the extra energy as heat. There's just so little current. These have probably been fully charged for a few hours because I put them on this charger last night before I went to bed. But they're not getting warm at all. So that's kind of nice. And it's especially nice because it means I can put nickel metal hydride batteries in this and it's not going to hurt them either. Nickel metal hydride batteries do not take overcharging as gracefully as NiCad batteries. They are more prone to warming up and burning off a lot more energy as heat, which could damage the battery over time. But modern nickel metal hydride batteries are so high capacity that not only is this not likely to overcharge them, but it's actually possible that this thing, the current isn't enough to fully charge the batteries. It's quite possible that the battery would only charge up to a point, and then the current's not enough to charge past that point. I don't know. Maybe it can fully charge them. I'd have to test, but the fact that this is a dumb charger that charges extremely slowly, to me, is actually kind of nice, and I would be absolutely comfortable testing nickel metal hydride batteries in this and seeing how well they work. So yeah, this is a totally dumb charger, and it even invites you right on the box to just leave batteries in all the time, so you know they're fully charged when you take them out to use them. And I guess that is the box. So we've been looking at the charger itself. It's got 2 red LEDs here to show when the left side is charging and when the right side is charging. Of course, as I said before, you need to put 2 batteries in a side for them to begin charging. But you don't need to fill all 4 spaces. You can fill just the 2 on the left or the 2 on the right. And of course, you've got the 9-volt battery terminals there. I don't have the manual for this thing, so I don't know for sure, but I would assume that when you're charging cylindrical batteries, you can't also use the 9-volt battery terminals. Actually, I know that's the case because I measured the voltage across the 9-volt battery terminals with the cylindrical batteries in, and it's the voltage of the cylindrical batteries. It's like 2.8 volts, so you're obviously not going to charge a 9-volt battery with that. So the 9-volt battery terminals are basically paralleled with the cylindrical battery terminals. Now you may think, well, doesn't that mean that the cylindrical batteries would, get way too much voltage? And the answer is no, because a battery charger like this is a constant current charger. So regardless of what the proper voltage of the battery should be, this is going to feed just a steady current. And because of the way NiCad and nickel metal hydride chemistries charge, they charge through constant current, not through constant voltage. So even though the open circuit voltage of the battery charger is going to be like, 9 or 10 volts DC, these 2 batteries aren't going to get more than like 1.5, maybe 1.6 volts each, because by the time they reach that voltage, they're fully charged and they're going to start burning off any extra energy as heat. So yeah, this is just a very low current, constant current power supply. The circuitry in this thing is probably really simple. I haven't been inside it because I can't actually find how to take it apart. There's no screws, but that's just as well. But if I had to guess what's inside this thing, this part of it gets quite warm, so I would assume all the circuitry's in here. If I had to guess what's inside here, there's going to be a transformer to bring down the voltage to something sensible like 10 or 12 volts AC. There's going to be some rectification happening, presumably full wave rectification with some diodes. And then there's going to be a really high resistance to limit the current to that, 100 milliamps or 12 milliamps for the higher voltage batteries. And I will take the batteries out here. As I've said, they've been charging since last night. It's about 17-18 hours since I put them in, so theoretically they should be fully charged by now. So I am going to take them off their very first charge in probably decades. I don't know why I'm fingering them out. This is a good time to demonstrate the easy eject system. You've got this little tab that you pull here, and it pops the battery right out. I'll do the same for these ones. Very nice. So let's take a look at the batteries. I measured the 4 of these batteries. 3 of them were at 0.5 volts and the 4th one was at 0.2 volts. So the fact that they had voltage on them at all is very, very impressive. But I really like the design here. It's got the plug here. Rechargeable nickel-cadmium battery. And see the specifications here. Charge at 80 to 100 milliamps for 16 hours. Rated 1.25 volts. NiCad has a nominal voltage 50 millivolts higher than nickel metal hydride. And these were made in Mexico. The finish on the batteries is quite nice. The label, it's not just a paper label. It probably is a paper label, but it seems to be, the battery seems to be laminated in plastic after that. So this print on the battery is protected by a plastic layer over it, so it won't get damaged. So the battery will stay looking nice. And that's good. No leakage or anything. This one's got a little bit of discoloration on the top. I don't know if that's just dirt or what. It's got a tiny, tiny amount of rust on the bottom. But I'm not going to worry too much about it. But yeah, they're very, very nice looking batteries. So going by this 80 to 100 milliamp for 16 hours, if we assume no losses, if we assume a 100% efficient charge, which that's not possible on even the best batteries, that would place these at between 1.25 and 1.6 amp hours. So very best case scenario, 1600 milliamp hours for these C batteries, which is very low today. Decent nickel metal hydride C batteries today are around the 3000 to 4000 milliamp hour range. The Energizer rechargeable C batteries you can buy are 2 amp hours, and that's because they're literally just a AA battery inside of a C-sized case. Even Energizer's rechargeable D batteries, they're literally just an empty case with a AA battery inside them. Don't buy the Energizer rechargeable C's and D's. They're a waste of money. Go on Amazon, get some real C or D batteries that are actually filled. The entire cavity is filled with the chemical material. You'll pay more for them compared to the crappy Energizer ones, but they're going to last a lot longer and they're probably higher quality. But as I said, that figure, 1.25 to 1.6 amp hours, that's assuming 100% efficient charge, which is not possible. If I had to guess, and also going by Radio Shack specifications for their NiCad C batteries back in the day, these are probably somewhere in the realm of 1 to 1.2 amp hours. Compare that to a modern AA nickel metal hydride, which can be as high as 2.5 amp hours. These are quite low capacity in comparison, but it was standard for the time. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to get a multimeter. These have been out of the charger for a few minutes now. I'm going to get a multimeter and see what the voltage is on all these, and then I am going to put these in a device and we'll see if they power the device on and see if it works. I'm very interested to find out. Well, I threw these on the multimeter and they all read 1.37 volts. That is excellent. Now, I have my test subject here, the Entex Pac-Man 2 electronic toy from 1981. I think this is fitting because it's possibly about as old as these batteries. So sort of matched here. But I'm going to put these batteries in. It does take 4C batteries. And I'm going to see if this thing powers on and we can play some Pac-Man. Alright, I'm going to turn my light off. Let's see what we get here. Oh my goodness. Look at that. 30, 35, maybe even 40-year-old NiCad batteries. Still working just fine. I would be lying if I said I was surprised. I'm really not. I have been impressed by NiCad batteries before. Out of all the battery technologies I've ever dealt with, I have found NiCad to be, without a doubt, the most robust. NiCad batteries have impressed me more than any other type of battery. It seems they can sit for decades and still be totally fine when you throw them on the charger. I've got some NiCad camcorder batteries that still work. They don't have nearly the capacity they used to, but they still do charge and perform their job adequately. But let me play a quick Pac-Man game here. We'll see if these batteries don't die after a few minutes. Haven't played this in a while. Not doing very well. Well, there you go. We made it through a level of Entex Pac-Man 2. And the batteries are running. They're working. I am just... I mean... I am a little amazed, I have to say, but I'm not too amazed because this is just the latest of many times NiCad batteries have just shown how durable they can really be. So, that is just totally awesome. Well, I'd say let's continue on with these D batteries. Let's get them out of the package. First we'll look over the package. These retailed for $6.97 at Ames. So, let's see, if this was $13, that was the equivalent of $31 today. These would have been the equivalent of $15, $16 in today's money. It says rechargeable up to 1,000 times, charge before use. For only about 5 cents per month, replaces most 1.5 volt size D batteries. Chargeable nickel-cadmium batteries are rated at 1.25 volts and will deliver a steady voltage of at least 1.2 volts for most of the discharge before requiring a recharge. It's referencing other chargers like the BC1, the BC2, and the BC3. This one's called the BC4B, and it doesn't reference that here, so these batteries may be older than the charger itself. Under normal use, charging cost is about 5 cents per month. Here are our two D NiCad batteries, and they are very light and they have a bit of a hollow sound, and also it still says right here charge at 80 to 100 milliamps for 16 hours. So I did some more digging on RadioShackCatalogs.com, and in the 1986 Radio Shack catalog, which was the first catalog where they listed the capacities of the batteries they sold, the C and D cells have the same capacity, 1.1 amp hours. So it sounds like Radio Shack stuck the C cell inside of the D cell to make the D cell. They pulled an energizer. So it's quite possible that these are the same. Heck, these might have been made by the same factory as the Radio Shack inner cells. But it's quite possible that there's a C cell inside this, and that's why it has a hollow sound when you tap them. Other interesting bits, take a look at this. They rated their AA NiCad at 450 milliamp hours. Modern AA NiCads are in the realm of 600 to 800 milliamp hours usually. The AAA they rated at 150 milliamp hours, and the 9 volt 65 milliamp hours. That's so little. An alkaline 9 volt battery is usually in the realm, I think, of 500 to 600 milliamp hours. In 1986, a NiCad one had just a tenth of that capacity. Modern nickel metal hydride rechargeable 9 volt batteries have a capacity of around 280 to 300 milliamp hours. And I actually bought some rechargeable 9 volt batteries. I bought them off Amazon, 4 of them for $20. And I'm interested for those to come. I'm going to try using them in this charger, because this is the first battery charger I have that can actually take 9 volt batteries. So we'll see how they work and how the high capacity, which is equivalent to, you know, a AA in 1986, a little less than a AA in 1986. See how they work in this charger. Hopefully there's no problems with it being nickel metal hydride and burning off extra heat once it's done charging, but I'll find out. But yeah, I found that very interesting. 65 milliamp hours. Looking at the back of the battery charger on the info plate here, you might or might not be able to read that, but it says nickel cadmium battery charger. It's got a catalog number, 120 volts, 8 watts, 50 or 60 hertz. Output is 2.9 volts or 8.7 volts. That would be dependent on if you stuffed it with a couple of cylindrical batteries or with the 9 volt rechargeable. At 105 milliamps or 12 milliamps. It was made in Hong Kong, model BC4B. And also kind of neat is it's got these mounting holes here, so you could actually mount this on a wall, have it wall mounted. I guess, yeah, it'd be like this, so the logo's the right way up. But yeah, and then you'd have a wall mounted battery charger. Kind of neat. Well, it's the next day. I let the D batteries recharge overnight. I gave them about 18 or 20 hours to charge. And once again, they charged up to about 1.35 volts each, and they work just fine. Now, I only have one thing that I know of that takes 2D or actually I have 2 things that take 2D batteries. One is a battery-powered fan that my girlfriend has now, and the other is a flashlight I have that takes 2D batteries. And I'm not a fan of using rechargeable batteries in incandescent flashlights because they have a lower output voltage, so the light output is noticeably less. But these would work in that just fine. But I figure as a test for these batteries, what I did was I did a brief short circuit test just to see what the short circuit current was, measured it through a multimeter, and the short circuit current on both of these batteries each measured to be about 12-13 amps. So that's pretty good. These batteries seem to work just fine. And I've been using the C batteries in my Sony TC110A cassette recorder from 1973. I've made a video of this before, and I've put about an hour on it with those C batteries, and it's been a trooper. So that's awesome. 6 vintage NiCad rechargeable batteries, all of which are working just fine. At least these 2 are new old stock. The 4C batteries may be new old stock as well, I'm not sure. But with that said, that's pretty much all there is to show of the vintage General Electric model BC4B NiCad battery charger from the 1980s, and the 4 C batteries and 2 D batteries, similar in age, that I got with it. It's a really cool system. I think the battery charger could be very useful for more than just the batteries I got with it, because it's a completely dumb, timerless charger that just pushes a very tiny amount of current through the battery. So it could be good for nickel metal hydride batteries, and it'll hopefully be excellent for the nickel metal hydride 9 volt batteries that I have bought. So yeah, very happy with that. Very happy to get some cool vintage batteries that are still working just fine, and I do plan to use them for as long as they continue working. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video.